Hope everyone had an amazing weekend. Excited for Monday, get this thing started. Hopefully, I don't know how many of you had a chance to check out our forefront on Wednesday. I'm pulling up details. There we go. I don't know how many of you had a chance to check out forefront on Wednesday, but it was awesome. It was really fun to be able to put together a conference where we had so many people that were able to tune in and really get a ton of value out of it. We've got some kind of special things for those of you who didn't attend. And so today what I'm going to do is, if you aren't aware, so Forefront virtual conference that we did last Wednesday, we had a mix of people like people who are out talking to hundreds of leaders like myself, Kevin Dorsey, Scott Leese, Amy Volas, and then also a lot of practitioners. So we had quite a few practitioners. These are the people that are in the seat, VPs of RevOps, VPs of sales, leading small, medium, and large teams. And so Forefront was really an amazing opportunity, for a lot of people to get that kind of end of year plan together. We had 3 tracks. There was a modern seller, which is really tactical sessions. Neil on our team led a really great one. There's a ton of people in that one. There's a modern leader, which was, for leaders, to be able to come and learn and, kind of understand more and more what it takes to be a leader as we look forward. And then modern RevOps, which is a topic I know it's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. So really great sessions, really awesome conversation all in all. And so what I wanted to do is give you all my 5 top takeaways, okay? So these are my 5 takeaways that I had from Forefront. When I thought about, again, like what if I was a leader and I had to summarize it? I said, hey, Jake, what are the top 3 things that I need to know going in? And I'll just kind of summarize these and drop them in the chat like I always do. So number 1 is this: effectively working with RevOps across teams. So for those of you who may or may not know what RevOps is, I'm gonna drop that in there. That's my number 1 takeaway, is how do you actually work across teams? Okay, so for me, when I think about this, I think about how do I align a strategy across my groups? Right now, so many organizations are super siloed, right? Because I think for a lot of organizations, RevOps, what I see when it doesn't work is it's kind of sitting behind the scenes almost. So you've got kind of like business unit leaders, then you've got kind of operations behind as opposed to a part of the journey, right? That there are technical components to the role, but what I think about is a good RevOps team should be helping to identify bottlenecks, 1, and then 2, after you've identified the bottlenecks, then help to put together the plan to solve them, which isn't just technology. And so I think that, again, this session here it was Brandon Jones and Nora Powers, was a really powerful session that really talked about the cadence of communication and getting the goals. Okay, this goal is more of an X meeting, territory mapping. This one's onboarding, right? And so not lumping everything into RevOps. Again, I see this as a really big area of opportunity, for a lot of folks out there. So effectively working with RevOps, now is the time. Really think about with your team right now, how well aligned are you? Because if you have a support organization that is crushing it, that is doing a great job, giving the business what they need, it makes everyone's life a little easier. Number 2, session takeaway. This is a great session led by VP Sales at Bizzabo. Engineering a customer-first sales process. Okay, this session, if you follow me at all, you've been listening or you've heard me talk quite a bit about this. But a customer-first sales process means what you do is you spend the time to actually map the sales process first, and then you spend time thinking about the sales motion behind it. And so if you're somebody out there, you're like, Jake, what the hell is a customer first journey? Think about it like that. It's an opportunity for you as an organization to map a process based on the customer's experience and then how we should interact. So how we do this is we talk a lot about, we use a tool called Mural, M-U-R-A-L. And from there, once we do that, like, hey, what are the ideal paths for our customers? How can we speed up the process, make it easier, et cetera? Then we say, okay, now how can sales or marketing show up at each step? So that's really a big one, hopefully for a lot of you. Next up, again, customer journey process. Just do it. Just do that exercise. Do the customer journey map exercise. I promise you're not going to be disappointed here. Okay, number 3, my third big session takeaways: how to coach your team to understand the buyer process and navigate deals with them. Okay, this is from my boys over at 30 Seconds to President's Club. Nick, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Nick, I apologize in advance. Which really talks about, again, like you should be implementing with your team is making sure that they're prepping themselves, but prepping their prospect to have a more productive first conversation, right? And so what I love about that idea is it's really an opportunity for people to not just show up to a meeting and like learn everything. Like, how can you prep your internal team? How can you prep your prospect? You're like, hey, in this meeting, here are the things we're going to cover. Here's what would be great if you have opportunity to do this, or if you can do this or come prepared or bring so-and-so, all of those things. So, again, whenever you want to talk about this idea of how to kind of work with your team, it's not just working with your team and giving them a bunch of advice, right? And I think that's a big issue. A lot of this is helping people to understand the process. What I used to do with my teams, for example, I used to, we'd have our account strategy meeting. They'd bring 4 or 5 accounts once a month. And very first question is, how do they make money? Okay, great. So who's your current point of contact? It's so-and-so. Okay, so-and-so's your current point of contact. Okay, who should we talk to next? Well, typically, okay, great. And usually after 4 to 5 months, they would start to come prepared with the account strategy. So if you want to help to teach your team to fish, stop spoon feeding them like every little detail. Instead, really think about what can you do to help them learn how to fish. Okay, not last, I've got 2 more. Insights from LinkedIn on deep sales. I don't know how many of you have heard this concept yet. This is a new concept really that LinkedIn is pioneering. I don't know, it says I4, but insights, so I know what I did. Just dropping these into chat. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't work. All right, so insights about deep sales. So what the hell is deep sales? Like, what is this concept? A lot of people have asked me that, like, Jake, what is this deep sales? Is this real? Is this, not real? Deep sales is a concept of how do I use data and insights to better direct my team's efforts at the top of the funnel, spend more time with the people that I should in the middle of the funnel, and then help to identify customer trends as well too. That's really it. So I want you to think about deep sales is that is the concept around deep sales. How do I spend more time? Who should I be spending time with? Who shouldn't I be spending time with? For those of you who don't use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I would really, really suggest you invest in it. I just have to tell you, out of the $50 you spend a month, it's got to be one of the easiest ways to spend $50 as a part of this. I just can't tell you enough, like, how much value LinkedIn Sales Navigator has. And now they've got this different like buyer intent data as well too. So all of these, at least in my book, if you don't have Sales Navigator, here you go. Here's a free, you can click that. You should be able to get a free month or something like that, a free few months if you don't use Sales Nav. But again, this concept of deep sales was my 4th favorite session. Again, and it's just, look, we've talked a lot about intent data, et cetera, but imagine the data that LinkedIn has access to. They know exactly when people change jobs, companies are growing or scaling. Like LinkedIn's intent data, and this, I'm not trying to make this a LinkedIn infomercial, but their intent data and ability to really help to make sure that you're spending time in the right places is just second to none. So if you want to understand more, you can just go Google deep sales and check it out as well too. It's just I feel like it's a very awesome tool and very easy to use as well. So go check that out. Also, if you don't already subscribe, so before I go into the last one here, if you don't already subscribe, every Monday we do these sessions. We also have a series of executive dinners, which I am absolutely bummed. I'm literally sitting here on my phone right now, trying to figure it out. We're supposed to have a dinner in Miami on Wednesday night. Getting on a plane here shortly to go, but it looks like there's going to be a hurricane. So Modern Leader is a series that I host personally at Skaled, where we do these LinkedIn Lives. We have specific webinars and sessions. We do executive dinners across the US. So make sure to sign up. If you're somebody who is in senior leadership or is aspiring to be in senior leadership, this series is certainly one that you don't want to miss as a part of it. So make sure, I just dropped the link there. Make sure to sign up. A lot of really cool things that we're doing there. All right, last but not least, I'm going to talk a little bit about culture. And how do you build out, like, what does it mean to build culture in 2023? This is a session led by Amy Volis. If you all don't follow Amy, I mean, if you follow me, there's a high likelihood you probably follow Amy too. So to me, this was a really big takeaway session that I had. Culture, culture can be very interesting, especially in this like remote first world. I think a lot of us are trying to figure out still, I mean, we're still new. There's no blueprint for this. There's no group of mentors who's like, oh yeah, I've been doing remote for 8 years and I've built a company. There's like 10 companies prior to the pandemic. So I think a lot of us are trying to figure out this idea around culture. Culture is a balance. It's a balance of top down on expectations. I think that's one that a lot of companies miss, and I can even take blame myself. I think I've done I had done a poor job from time to time of not being super clear on maybe our direction, or sometimes having too many directions. We're focused on this, and so I think the more clear something is from the top down on what culture is just one of the most important details. And if you're unclear, ask. I think a lot of people, it's really interesting, a lot of frontline people, they have one or two bad experiences at work, and then they kind of shut down. They kind of shut down, and they don't want to manage up anymore. They're nervous to manage up. They got their hand slapped once, and they're like, oh, I don't want to get yelled at again. And so I think for a lot of people, that is a really real fear. But I can tell you, in most organizations, they want you to be a part of the culture. They want you to participate. Right. And then the other way, so sometimes it's too vague. And then Amy called this out, which I thought was really cool, which is like, and then the other like issue is like, it's pushed to the point where people focus on like culture, like over everything, and exclude people who don't look, act, or feel a certain way. This is so big. I can tell you all, like, both are not good. Right. So if you think of one is like, it's vague, that's obviously not good. Two, it's like every decision you paint the culture as like a group, almost like an individual, where you're like, this is the culture. And like Amy said, that I thought was just so great. It's like, yeah, but a lot of times that tends to aggregate around a certain type of individuals, which look from a diverse, but also everyone at least understanding this clear standpoint, that's not necessarily the end of the world. Meaning like making sure everyone in the organization is aligned. The key is just making sure that like it's not wrapped around everything, and it's people creating cliques of what they view as culture. Another point Amy brought up is having an open and comfortable culture conversations both ways. Employees ask and say the hard things, and like I mentioned before, and leaders also ask. If you're a frontline leader, all of us have to be, a part of this. All of us have to, help to drive the change, be a part of the change, or to help to reinforce key culture initiatives. So, the interesting part that I think about is it's the foundation. And, I was doing a podcast, I think it was last week. And, we were talking about our values and our vision. And I've called out myself many times for this. I think we failed for a long time on, what is, collaboration is one of our values. And, if you ask the layperson, what does collaboration mean to you? You might get a bunch of different answers, right? And so think about like, how can you, and so what we did is we created called norms, which are like, what does that value look like when it's lived, right? What does it look like when it's, it's like, oh, so collaboration means, yeah, you have the tough conversations with your peers. It's not just showing up for meetings and being friendly, it's being productive, right? And so we defined all of these. So then people knew like, oh, this is how I can be a good collaborator. So that's why, again, I think clarity is just such a key point. So that's it. That was my 5 top takeaways for Forefront. Make sure, do not miss out on the next one, right? We're going to be doing another conference. We're debating maybe doing an in-person conference, which would be a lot of fun, and kind of late Q1 or Q2. But I want you to think about, these are my 5 top takeaways. 1, Rev operations, giving them a seat at the table, having effective communication around very specific work streams, and allowing RevOps to be a bigger part of that. Number 2, customer first sales process. I'm telling you right now, if you don't do this exercise where you take a look at your customer experience today, think about how you can fast track people, you're going to be left behind. Number 3 is how to coach your team. And coaching, again, how do you help them to come up with the right answers? How do you help them navigate the best deals? Deep sales, number 4, again, the concept of like, we have all this access to data, but a lot of times we either ignore it or don't want to believe it, or continue to do what we're doing, and so we don't get full advantage of it. Deep sales is like, hey, how do we use all this intent data? How do we use different insights to really make sure, just not at the top of the funnel, but middle funnel and current customer, that we're identifying trends? And last but not least is lay the foundation of a great culture, right? Without that, it's very difficult to grow. It's very difficult to scale. So I hope that helps. Keep fingers crossed. Like I said, I don't know. I think we should probably cancel the dinner at this point. There's gonna be a hurricane off the coast, I think it's I don't think a lot of people are gonna want to go to a dinner. So if you're in Miami, let me know. You can feel free to DM me and be like, Jake, yeah, don't do it, because it was set for Wednesday at 7 p.m. and it looks like literally the hurricane's 50. It could be a Cat 1 and it's 50 miles offshore. So I don't want to do that. So all right, everyone, have a great rest of your week. I hope my 5 takeaways and summaries, again, make sure to sign up for the next conference so you don't miss out live, and we'll see you all in the next one.